I'm Jen West, professional rebel of delight.
And I'm Dave Wiesdock, sage of creative scaffolding.
And this is Shadow Casting. Good day, audience. Welcome back to another episode of Shadow Casting. This week, we are wrapping up our series on play mindset.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Today's our last episode on a huge series. This is our largest series that we've done so far for Shadow Casting. I think it's been a great deep dive into something that you created. And I'm so excited to put the final bow on this, tie it all together, and warning to our audience, just like a little asterisk at the beginning, as someone who is newer to this thing that Jen developed, this is the deep tool. This is the deep quality right here. So there's a lot that we're going to dive into today, and I couldn't be more excited. Bring your awareness, bring your acceptance, bring your curiosity, and get ready for some discomfort and some play.
100%. This one is the last one that we talk about because it's the culmination of being able to use all of your other tools. And you wouldn't think that it is because it's choice. We make choices constantly, but it really does have a different energy because of that. So before we get started, a reminder, we did a introduction to play mindset months ago, and I highly recommend going back, listening to that one if you haven't been following along, because it really gives a deep dive in what the play mindset is about. But today we'll start off with a quick recap of what play mindset is, where it came from, and how you can use it. So play mindset, play is an acronym, and it stands for a practice that shines a light on actions that support you. And this all came about after I read the book by James Carse. It's not really a book, it's more like a little treatise called Finite and Infinite Games. And in it, he makes this very cool distinction between finite games, which are games that we play like chess and football, that have beginnings and ends and winners and losers and a set time and boundaries and a certain number of players and rules that are strict. And he distinguishes that from infinite games, which are games that we play that have boundaries, but they're manipulatable and there isn't an end and there isn't really a beginning. It just continues on. And the goal of the game is not to win, it's to keep playing. So players come in, players come out. It doesn't stay the same. And he learned this from watching his kids playing with Legos. There'd be a couple kids playing and then different kids would come in and play with their Legos, and then they'd go out and there'd be one kid playing. And so it was an infinite game of imagination and just growing. And that's what life is. It's an infinite game. It's one we want to keep playing. We're not trying to win life. We're just trying to play life. So that's where the idea came from. And I started to notice two different cycles that people are in. They're either in a survival cycle where life happens to them and they're trying to make ends meet. And it's kind of a cycle that just goes around and around. You do the same things, you have the same patterns, you get the same results. It's stuck. It's literally survival. Can I live to the next day? And then there's another cycle that people get into called the fulfillment cycle. And that one is one where we create our world. We're constantly learning. We're growing to the next thing. Our patterns change as we develop as humans. And just like the name says, it's fulfilling. And so this tool helps move us from that survival cycle into the fulfillment cycle so that we can keep playing the game and actually enjoy the game we're playing.
Yeah. And I think one thing that jumps out to me in this review that has stayed with me as we've gone through this series is that you could go between both cycles. It's not like you're just in survival or you're just in fulfillment. And it's not just in one area of your life. You can be in different cycles in different areas, depending on where you're at, how aware you are, what you're working on, where your focus is. And I think that's just important for our audience to keep in mind as we go through as well, is to recognize that where, for example, at work, you might be really into your personal responsibility and you're always on time and you manage yourself well and you get your jobs done. Maybe in your outside life, you struggle with like the tool we're going to talk about today, which is choice. So it's just something to keep in mind that you're going to find these in different areas of your lives in different ways.
Yeah. And like I said, as we started, this is our eighth tool, and it really is the culmination. It helps so much to have the other tools in place that you're already working with at some level. So I'll just quickly label those off. There are 7 other episodes that dive deeply into all of these. So we started our play mindset journey with getting used to discomfort and moving out of anxiety and into excitement. Then we learned about awareness, which takes us out of being in autopilot and brings us into the world so we're present. Then we move into the tool of non judgment, where we move out of fear and into compassion and onto acceptance. What is? We just need to sit in that. We move out of blame and into balance. Then it starts to get real. We take ownership through personal responsibility. This moves us out of being a victim and into our power. And then it gets fun. We grab onto curiosity, and it takes us from a very closed off place to the possibilities that live in our world, which brings us to the tool of vision. We start to see an ideal, and it takes us out of dwelling on the past and moves us into this place of trust that we can create, that we can have that vision, that we can move towards it. And now, today, we wrap it all up with the tool of choice, where we get out of a sense of drifting and being stuck or flowing where everybody else tells us to go. And we move into a place of decision. And that's super empowering.
It really is. And I love the energy of this tool and quality that we're going to discuss today, because I was thinking as you were doing the recap that one of the interesting things that comes to mind is there's this like misnomer out there in the spiritual world that if you read this book, do this thing, do this practice, X, Y, or Z, that you'll go from wherever you're feeling crappy, whatever drew you to that thing or tool, to feeling the result that you want to feel, whether that's happiness, joy, peace, abundance, wealth, whatever. And what I love about this process, this mindset, is that it's not a one and done thing, that this is a continual development. And I think what happens, especially with this last tool, is that this is where I was stuck, I think, when we met, was in drift. And I really, quite honestly, had to work backwards. I had to start at the discomfort and the awareness and the non judgment and come back to the drift. And that's the thread or the theme I think I want to communicate, especially as we talk about this tool, is that you're going to notice where the drift is. And I think the idea is to figure out what tool or quality you're missing along the way from what we've already discussed about that's contributing to this drift factor.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Dave, because we do feel the drift. We don't like it. We feel out of control in our world. And it's not something that just gets fixed in and of itself. It's not like you can just use choice and start making a whole bunch of choices and the drift goes away and you're in decision, because you need that personal power from personal responsibility. And you need that acceptance, and you need to be able to sit in discomfort before you can go there. So thanks for bringing that up, Dave.
Yeah. And you hit it right on the head. Exactly. If I'm not comfortable with discomfort, I'm always going to choose comfort over the discomfort, and the discomfort's how I grow. So I will continue to drift, as a very like microcosm of an example. So for drift, that's really, if you think about it in general terms, this is that pacificity in life, being very passive, not really having a clear direction on where you want to go. And the tool prior to this vision, I think, is what creates the direction from drift. And so when we're in drift, we have that lack of vision. We're not really sure. Maybe we lost a job and it's okay, where do I go from here? And if I'm not willing to sit in the discomfort, for example, of having lost that job, I might stay in my drift. And so, one of the things that contributes to the drift is this idea of lack of fulfillment. And fulfillment energetically is the idea that it's something having been delivered. It's a completion. It's a completion of the cycle. Yeah, exactly. And so when you feel that lack of fulfillment, it's because the cycle's not completing. You're either stuck in a repetitive pattern, not really moving forward. Again, that drifting, that stagnating energy, or you have kind of an idea of where you want to go. Maybe you understand, maybe you've been listening to our podcast and for example, Simon Sinek really spoke to you. And so you went and read his book on finding your why, discovering your purpose, and you found a purpose and you're all excited and you're still drifting. You're like, I know what I want to go out and do in the world, but I don't know where, how, what way. Like everything else is really muddied. That can also be that lack of fulfillment because you've been given a piece to your puzzle and you don't know where to go with it.
Yeah, that's where it goes. That drift, I think that's where we recognize that we are in a survival cycle and we feel it. We feel the discomfort of it. And it's a discomfort we can't get out of because by choosing to drift, by even making simple decisions, we're not doing them. If we're like, I don't care where we go out to eat, or my family told me what college to go to, and this is the job I have and the career I'm in. Everything is a drift, even if you're doing it well. If it doesn't come from your values and something that's come from inside you and started direct out, you drift. And just like Dave said, once you find that purpose, doesn't mean you know how to make decisions to get where you want to go. You don't know how to find choices, pick one, and have it lead somewhere. So I know a lot of people, myself included, the thing was make a vision board, put up all those things you want in your life and what your house looks like, and do meditations that show the future you and where you live. And it's all well and good until you come back to the world and you have to make a choice. And it's gone because you're only used to what you've done and you haven't got the other steps. You haven't gotten curious of things that are outside of what you've ever done. And you haven't taken responsibility for where you are. And there's still blame in your life and fear. Fear's a huge one. What if I do it wrong?
Yeah. And that blame and fear can come up from a variety of sources, but one of them could be things like missed opportunities. This idea that, again, this idea of missed opportunities and really putting your potential within that opportunity and thinking that because of either yourself or others or some interaction and combination thereof, that you are drifting because you missed that opportunity and therefore that potential is gone. You can't grow, you can't develop in that way.
Or sunk cost. You
Oh,
went to college for this thing and you spent all that time and that money and you learned this skill. Sunk cost. Now you have to keep doing it. You have to keep flowing down that river and get stuck in the eddies.
oh my gosh. And is that not putting on the business hat? Is that not that in the truest sense when you're working for a company or with somebody and they're like, this is how we've always done it. Therefore, that's how we're always going to do it. Regardless of the results, regardless about the outcome, this is how we've always done it.
Yeah.
But here's the catch. Psychologically, I think we tell that to ourselves, right? This is how I've always done it. And whether it's so ingrained in us that we hear it or not, we do tell ourselves that. Think about something simple that's not as survival and fulfillment cycle focused, washing your laundry. Most people put in their detergent, put in some softener of some sort, put in their clothes, and if you've got your colors, you're doing your warm or your cold cycle. If you've got like towels and like there's rules and rhythms and reasons to how you wash your clothes. But the idea is that there are some things in life that are built that way to make room for the energy of the things we need to focus on. The idea is to not autopilot on the things that are going to be causes for our growth. How you do your laundry isn't necessarily going to be a cause for how you grow, but how you operate in a business could be, how you operate in your relationships could be. And so the idea that of the sunk cost fallacy or its opposite, where you have a missed opportunity, they're kind of two sides of the same coin, right? They're not even polar opposites. They're just expressions in different forms. If you missed an opportunity, you often sit there going, man, what if I had done X, Y, or Z? And on the flip side, if you went full all into one opportunity, you might be thinking, well, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? And in either case, you're still in that drifting logic because instead of using the possibilities as a vision to create and grow yourself, you're using it as this flagellation almost to berate yourself for a possibility that isn't even worth considering because it's not in that realm of reality right now. And to me, that is where you really, for where I really recognize that I'm in drift. When possibilities are being used as the bludgeon and opportunities missed or taken are being used as like the calibration of where you and how you want to show up, all those are cues into, okay, I'm drifting because they're not the things that Jen was just talking about earlier, which are coming from within. Those are all external things that I just talked about.
And I've done it before. I've gotten into that missed opportunity where I didn't create the thing that I wanted to create. So I had no content and I hadn't, I had these ideas but I hadn't built them. I hadn't put them in place. So when an opportunity came to me where somebody was interested in the idea that I rambled in my head, there was nothing behind it. The opportunity was lost because I didn't act. I never took the action. I never made the decision because I didn't already have people to buy it.
Yeah.
And yeah, the opportunity was lost. I had nothing to offer the person that wanted it.
And
That sucks.
Oh, it
It's
does.
hard.
Well, it's kind of like a reverse serendipity. It's still serendipity. It's just not alignment with serendipity because the opportunity still came to you. You just weren't aligned with the energy, and so it went by.
Right.
And that's an example of that drift.
Yeah, and it's because everywhere else in my cycle, I was still a lot in survival.
Yeah.
There was all I'm a victim. I don't have the people. Why would I build something for nobody? What if nobody ever wants it?
And actually, that's a really great point too that I don't know that we've emphasized specifically in this podcast or in this series, but these are scales, not points, right? So in other words, you're not just in drift or just in decision. You can do little bits of decision or big decisions. You can have little bits of drift or lots of drift. You can be totally clueless in every area of your life or just have one kind of area you need to focus on. But even if there's that one area, I'm trying to think of like an analogy, but it's not coming to mind.
Well, let's try this. So there are areas where we have our shit together and we've done it. For me, it was wellness and fitness. I take pretty good care of my body. I like to play outside. I want my body to be able to do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. So I keep myself healthy. So when opportunities come to go on hikes or to join a martial art, I'm in shape and able to do that. Or somebody's like, let's go run a Spartan race. That opportunity I can seize because my life has already had a decision on an identity that I have, the identity of being fit and a mover. And so there I seize those opportunities. But in other areas, there's something I want, but I'm not prepared for them. I have not created the identity or layered it up enough that I can seize an opportunity when it arrives.
Yes, exactly. You and I are the exact example I'm looking for here. We can both be in fulfillment in our decision, in our physical health, and it show up radically different. And it's a scale in the sense of what I'm choosing for my health isn't the energetic powerhouse, quote unquote, that Jen is choosing. She's ready to go on 14,000 feet, 17-hour hikes. I'm ready to make sure I get my hour of walk in every day. And neither is wrong, and neither is necessarily in survival cycle. And both are kind of in fulfillment because they're fulfilling for different reasons. Jen is very athletic and physically oriented and likes those challenges and strives in her values and her purpose to cultivate that identity like she's discussing. For me, it's more of a necessity. Maybe that is still even a little bit of survival cycle, but let's entertain the fact that we're in fulfillment cycle here. And that physical fitness and wealth and happiness and health for me isn't based in being able to scale that same kind of mountain because I'm not on that same scale. Whereas for me, making sure that I am doing my hour walks a day or taking my shakes or taking care of my like those are the things that help me feel fulfilled because that is where I am currently at. And so being able to meet in where you are currently drifting and not putting it against where others are feeling fulfilled is going to be paramount too. Because if I am constantly picturing in my mind that fulfillment only happens when I'm able to scale that mountain, then I'm going to continue to put myself in that drift cycle and not succeed in my own life. And that's what I was trying to get at with the scale is that you can still be in survival or fulfillment and it look radically different for two different people.
I see what you're putting down and I'm picking it up totally.
Okay, perfect.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you picked it up perfectly.
Excellent. I was like, what's the saying? It's perfect because that really allows you, the audience, to decide what's important to you. That my fitness level does not match what I like to watch on YouTube and Instagram. Those people are amazing. Like, I want to be those calisthenic people, but I'm not willing to put in the work to be where those people are. So I'm at my fitness level, but it's fulfilling for me because I can do the things I want to do. And if you're not,
And just to clarify on that, it's not fulfilling for you because it's not aligned with your personal values, with your priorities, with your purpose. And that's
yes,
the key too. It's not, oh, that's not aligned with me and therefore this, that, or the other. Like you are clear, you have the vision of what you are building towards and what inspires you. And that it's those nuances. This is really nuanced here.
exactly. So yeah, different fitness levels, different. Yes, I would like to be able to do those things, but I have a more balanced life at this point. I'm older, so it's harder to achieve. I've got a kid, got a family. I prefer to do Bagua, and I don't need to have that calisthenic superpower. Yeah, so it's just not in there. I'm not making that choice. Could I? Yes. Does it match my values right now? No. And so that's something to play with. You don't have to be the best. You have to be what you are. And then, of course, on the other spectrum, the people who don't even want to be where I am, like hiking a mountain sounds awful. Skiing in the cold winter sounds awful. They don't need that. Just being able to move and get your day done and go out and play. And yeah, that's all that matters, that it matches you. Because maybe you have a high standard for something else, like business, or you have a high standard for relationships. So you're a member of a zillion clubs, or you go out and do a lot of charity work because that's your passion. So I have a
Service.
service. So that's low on my scale. I'm not very good at that. Does it mean I'm not living in fulfillment? No, because I'm one of those people who does the kindness in the moment. But there are higher levels, and it's what's your fulfillment level.
So how do you decide if you're drifting or not? And I think decision is like we were talking about, drift is being beaten around by all these external circumstances or what you're hitting yourself over the head with. But a decision is conscious, it's deliberate, and it's a choice made towards a goal, towards what you are envisioning. And it's something that you do consistently as an action over time.
And decision is big, it's an abstract. Again, these higher sides of the fulfillment cycle, the words that are the fulfillment words, are something we cultivate. They're a way of being. So they're not something you do. This is why choice is the tool. Decision is an energy in your body. And as Dave and I have just pointed out, we do this in some area of our life. There is something that we have decided, and it happens regardless. There is no longer the argument in your head, should I not, this or that. It was decided, and there is a flow now happening that you chose.
Yes. I've seen it quite a few times and I'm paraphrasing, but the gist is ready isn't a feeling, it's a decision. You're never going to feel ready. You're just
Mhm.
going to be ready to decide. And that's really it. If we sit around waiting to feel motivated, a lot less is going to happen.
That inner voice gets in the way and tells you all the reasons not to. You know when you decide because one of those voices comes up and you're like, so it
Yep, I'm
doesn't
doing it
matter.
anyway. Yep.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Yep. And I mean, a great, very mundane example is like going to the gym. On Monday, when I go to the gym, my head for the first 20 minutes, knowing that I'm going in the car going and going up to the door, I am bitching in my head that I have to go to the gym. And then the entire time I am there, it's not it either actually it's just not there. And really that's where the decision comes in. It's getting my ass in the door at the gym. That's the decision. That's the consistency over time that leads to the choice of being at the gym, regardless of if my brain's telling me I'm tired, I didn't have enough protein, I had a rough day, whatever excuse it wants to come up with, still showing up and being there.
Yeah. And it's a weird feeling. This is a hard one to encapsulate because even the fact that Dave's bitching on the way there, he's already driving. He's not sitting at
Yeah.
home complaining or coming up with excuses. He's driving, going, I don't want to do this. I hate this. This is the worst. It's going to hurt and it's wasting my time. And I could be, whatever. I'm making up Dave's thoughts.
I mean, that's pretty close.
Okay, cool. I'm just making them up and deciding that they're what your brain does. But that's the decision was already made. He's driving there already. And then by the time you're in the door, it's like it gives up. I told my son, this is kind of a digress, but when we started hiking mountains together, the first mile is the worst. You're taking those steps and the muscles are aching and they don't want to hike and it's early in the morning and it just feels like this is going to be the worst thing that you do all day long and it's never going to stop. Then once you get past that mile, it's like the body gives up and goes, all right, this is what we're doing. And it stops hurting. You start looking around and you start enjoying yourself and you move into doing it. But the decision was already made. You're already on the trail. You just have to suffer through the first mile and then you're good to go.
Right. And so really it's in all these examples, whether going to the gym, hiking a mountain, or maybe something that you're thinking of as you're listening to this podcast, it's the idea that you're recognizing a situation. There's other options available to you. And rather than, see, again, this just gets so nuanced so quick. Rather than giving into the habitual thinking, the inner critic, the habits, whatever, you not only choose a response, but you execute on that response. Like Jen was saying, I was kind of using I guess maybe a bit of an exaggerated example with going to the gym because you're right. Once I'm in the car, I'm pretty much at the gym. But see, again, that's that nuanced self-talk because in my own head, I clearly just ratted myself out. I'm not at the gym until my ass is in that door at the gym. But the thing is that I would never decide otherwise. Once I'm driving there, I'm going. I don't turn around the car. I don't know, go to Burger King instead or something. I'm making stuff up. But all those possibilities could be available to me. Those are all alternatives. But I am still going to the gym. Like that was my chosen response. And so regardless of whatever objection comes up, my response is I'm going to the gym. I'm going to the gym. I'm going to the gym. I'm going to the gym.
Yeah. It really is. I said this in the beginning, but it really, decision is when it becomes an identity. And even when you don't want to do it, when the brain gets in the way, there's a part of you that takes you that way anyway, because it's who you are. It's who you are as a person. And drift is when you have an identity that others run your life. Drift is where you don't really have, so there's an identity in drift too, but it's a drift that others are the driver.
Oh, okay. So if we really zoom out here for a minute and not look at let's call drift decision and choice the forest or the trees. If we zoom out, the forest is identity then, right?
Yeah.
What seeds are you planting? Are you planting the stories and the habits that you or others have given you, i.e., drift? Or are you planting new seeds? And that's hard. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. See,
From your values and from your
goals.
purpose. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because that's what makes the decision. Once you have those values and those that purpose and that vision starts to come into play, an identity form that gets you there. And that's decision.
Okay, sorry, audience. I'm having like meta realizations of my own life, like as we're discussing this. So give me a second to like breathe into it. Oh, holy shit. So, yeah. So, really, then, that's why decision requires this intentionality and mindfulness, because in the beginning stages, you are doing a lot of the fucking labor.
That's
You are,
what the rest of the circle is helping you create.
yeah, or I'd even argue decreate, because really, if we go with the analogy of the forest being your identity and the trees representing that identity, you have to get rid of the trees that are the old identity, the old habits. So there's an active part in that, right? You've got to get rid of them and you're making space for these new trees. But then you've got to plant those trees and cultivate them and water them and love them and nurture them and tender and care for them. And that's a lot of work. And here's the crazy part is that if you have all these old habits and identities, there's a lot more of those than the little trees that you're planting with decisions. And so it takes time. But what ends up happening is that by planting, my mind is just blown with this identity thing because you are right. Because the more, this is a paradox because you don't want identity either, then, because identity can be limiting, because identity is belief, right?
This is a created one. This is a cultivated one.
Right.
This
So,
is something, and it is fluid. You're choosing to embody something that is your values, that is your purpose.
so maybe the better analogy is that you're just clearing the forest.
Yeah, you're just cleaning stuff up. And
Yeah, I
you're
need a better.
recognizing what's already there. Like the identity wants to live in there already. It's your values. It's not a false front. But there's all this other junk coming in from the outside, from society saying what you should be, how you should be.
Well, right, because the false front would be that other identity, the drift. That's really
drift.
the false identity,
Mhm.
false front. Anytime you choose something that isn't aligned with who you truly are, that's the falseness. It might feel real because it's comfortable, because it's known, but that's why we talk about going into the discomfort, because you are going into the unknown. You're going in, well, into the subconsciously unknown. I guess if it's your goals, your values, your purpose, it's always been known. It's just whether you're conscious of it or not.
Yeah, you always act on it. I mean, things will be harder. Let's say you were in a super athletic family, but you wanted to be an author and you want to write and you're not extroverted and they're sports fanatics. So everything was driven and you learned to be athletic and sports driven and it never felt right. It felt like you were always doing it for what other people thought you should be. And all you want to do is write stories about who knows, maybe it's not even action adventure. Maybe it's what are those news stories that are coming out that don't really have a plot, but they're like, God, what are comfort something or other. And they're
Oh,
just full stories about people making pots and sitting in gardens and they're really relaxing. Oh, somebody told me about these recently. Cozy fiction. It's called cozy fiction.
the code, yes, I have seen this because there's no real plot. Like, it's not like the fairy making the pottery's destroyed, and then she's got to go rescue the pottery, or like it's nothing like that. Right? It's all about like humanness, like going through the grit, the motions, and all that. Yeah. So I have seen that. Yeah, that is cool.
But that's the thing. Maybe this person who's athletic and driven and been told they need to win trophies and stuff, all they want to do is write cozy fiction. And
Yeah.
how do they move into that identity? And that's hard because there's going to be a shit ton of judgment from outside on who they're supposed to be.
This goes to what you were getting at with decision being the overarching energy. Because especially in coming of age stories, let's call it, the author that grew up in the family that was very athletic and they're striking out on their own because they're not with that motif, that requires a lot of freaking energy to overcome that flow in your life. But the other thing is that flow in your life is also driving your life, whether you realize it consciously or not. And so there's a lot of energy in decisions, whether you are conscious of that decision or not. And the idea is with the play mindset is that you become more aware over time of all these little decisions, whether ones you've made or whether others have made them for you. And then as you become aware of them, you make different decisions that are aligned with your true self, we'll call it. And by doing that, you give yourself that direction to go and a place to move from instead of passively following. And when you are in that place of decision, then things like the inner thoughts we were talking about, like going to the gym, are just distraction. And you can act almost in spite of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not important anymore. Yeah, they're happening because they're a habit, but you don't take them personally because you don't care. You're like, of course I'm going. Half the time, I do not want to get up and go to Bagua in the morning. And it doesn't matter that those thoughts are there. I go because I like it. And it's already, it was decided long before those thoughts came on.
Yeah. It's something that becomes embodied. It's this idea that you are living and breathing what is true for you. And I think one of the interesting things that I noticed is that, especially as someone that is newer to this, that requires a lot of work and energy and effort. And here's the crazy thing. When I started moving into decision and choice and cultivating the play mindset, I was actually more tired and more drained than I was when I was in the survival cycle. But here's the crazy thing. The longer I've stuck with it and worked towards cultivating my fulfillment, the more that underlying energy comes back. And then bringing this full circle to what we were discussing at the beginning of this podcast, that's where you start to get the byproduct of things like joy, happiness, fulfillment. Yeah. All the things that might have even led you to looking at this tool do happen, but they are not the choice. They are the byproduct of the choice, because the choice is the skill that you're developing to get there.
Yeah, it's the quality that arises from making the decision, whether it's the athlete that needs to get in an eddy and kind of sit and find out what they really want, or it's the person who's stuck, who just everybody else's decisions are the one they follow. They just kind of gone with the flow of circumstance and society, and they actually have to get in their own stream and go. Mm-hmm. So there isn't a right way to do decision, but it's a quality that's cultivated over time. And that happens through choice. And that's the tool. That's what gets you there.
So choice is the quality, the tool.
Yeah, to build the quality. Yeah, so choice are those pieces. It's really what the word is. It's the making of a choice. And to make a choice, to go in a direction, you have to have options. And often we either have too many options and we feel overwhelmed by them. And that's how we kind of fall into drift. There's just too much going on and I'm stuck and I feel overwhelmed. So whatever happens, happens. It's kind of making the choice not to make a choice. And that's when you totally go down into drift. Or you never allow yourself to have more than two options. And it's really, things happen to me. So I can either do this or I can do that. And it was really cool. As I was doing some research, I had forgotten about Anthony Robbins, the guru guy that sends people on their destiny so they can make millions of dollars. He brought up that if you have a single option, then you have no choices. And if you have two options, then you're actually in a dilemma. You don't have choice. You're just in a dilemma. There's an argument happening inside of you. You only get to true choice when you have 3 or more options. And I don't think most of us allow ourselves to have 3 options. Once we get to 2, we decide we need to pick. There's a T in the road and we need to go one way or the other. And that's when you can get stuck and drift too, because neither one of them's good.
Wow. And I mean, just coming at this from a completely drifted perspective, it's kind of funny because when you are overwhelmed with choices, it's almost instinctive to want to narrow it down to
Mhm.
a couple. I mean, even a few, 3 or more sounds like a lot. So that's really interesting. So then how would you say that that plays in with what we were discussing earlier about identity? Do you feel that the identity is so contextual that we need multiple choices in order to get like a broader sense of our identity and therefore make a choice that is more aligned? So in other words, does only having 2 choices become so limiting that we can't see the fullness of our identity within those 2 choices? And so by having more options, we're able to be more aligned in the choice we make. Does that make
Well,
sense?
yeah, I totally see where you're coming from, but let's put it in the overarching theme of the play mindset completely. When we really get to choice, we've already sat in curiosity. And so that tool becomes more practical because options, possibilities have come up. They've already inspired us with energy. They're not survival anymore because then we're in drift. They're a possibility to something greater that we want. And so there probably won't be a lot of choices and they'll all be heading in a similar direction. So let's say, since we've been using fitness, maybe there's that possibility of being healthier. Maybe there was an injury at some point when you're a kid, and so movement's a little bit hard, and you want to make the choice. And the choice is more like, what little thing do I want to do? Do I want to take a walk? Do I want to take a class? Do I enjoy people more? We're already getting into our value of what we care about and who we are. So sometimes we want to do things alone, if that's a personality, or a group thing where you go out on group walks. And so these choices start to fold. Do I want to play pickleball or do I want to go on a group walk? Or do I have a dog? And so I find a walking group that has dogs and we walk as a group, or I walk alone with. That's where the choice gets interesting. And the skill is picking. Just pick one and do it, because you don't cultivate decision until you start picking and seeing what the consequences are of picking.
Well, you just brought up 2 really big things I want to hit on. So the first is I think vision plays in really well here as well, because you're right. I love how you described this now. So the multiple choices isn't a lack of curiosity, it's because you've already leaned into it. And I
Mhm.
even go one step further and say that you leaned into the vision too, right? Because what I'm hearing is that regardless of which choice you pick, they're all more or less building towards that same vision, right? So your
Mhm.
vision is the fulfillment cycle and a healthy body, let's say, right? Well, you could get that in a multitude of ways. You're right. You could do yoga, you could do walking your dog, you could do Bagua classes, you could do group classes at the gym, you could work solo at the gym. All of those can get you towards your vision, but some of those choices are going to align more with who you are than other choices are. And as long as you pick the ones that are aligning more towards you, you're going to feel more fulfilled because more of you is being able to be brought out in those actions and with those you interact with. And it's building towards what you're envisioning.
Yeah, exactly. And those choices, sometimes we make them too big. I'm going to walk 3 miles every day. And that's when we come back to that original choice that we got you to, Dave, which was 2 minutes. Pick any activity and do it for 2 minutes because you're just building a muscle
Yeah.
of making a choice and doing it. And it doesn't have to be life altering at first, because decision is cultivated. It's a quality of your character. And you don't build the quality of your character with huge choices. You build the quality of your character through little tiny practices that feed on themselves, that bring more choices that you want to interact with.
And this is why I really like that decision was an energy, because decision comes after the choice, I think.
Lots
The
of
energy,
practice. You got to choice. You've got a vision, but you can stay in drift. That's what we started this entire thing off with. You can know what you want and can't get there. You
Yeah,
can't get to decision.
exactly. And that's just it, is we make decision and choice
Synonymous.
not only synonymous, but so freaking paramount. For example, and to just really characterize this example, that's like saying, I'm going to lift weights for the rest of my life because that is the only thing that aligns with me. And that is the only way to get healthy. And that might not even be true for you or true to you. That might just be something that you picked up from a friend or a parent or a partner or whoever. It might not even be your truth. And then what's worse is 1, 2, 3 years down the road, when you are still so gridlocked in that decision, that energy becomes stagnant too. And then we're left going, well, what the hell happened? I'm doing all the quote unquote right things and things aren't manifesting for me. They're, those moments of serendipity. It's because the energy has stagnated. That decision is no longer maybe aligned for who you are, what you are. And I think about this with my own career and the vast whiplash I've given myself and the various hats that I've worn. And I can answer truthfully in the fact that I never saw one career as that. I've looked for it to be, that's it. That's the final straw. That's what I'm quote unquote meant to do. I mean, as the millennial, we were told, go follow your passion. You'll never work a day in your life. And it's just, that's so short sighted. Our passions change, our decisions change, our energy changes. I think the better strategy is learning to cultivate and make decisions from an energy rather than from a moment.
Yeah. And then once you've built the quality of decision, moving to a new decision, it's easier. You've built it into your body. You know how to move in a direction. And then you know how to make the little choices that lock that decision in, that make it sustainable and you. But it's free floating. So decision isn't this stuck, stagnant thing that now you are this, even though we talked about identity. It's still choice ebbs and flows. Even if I stay athletic forever, when I'm 80, I may be doing different things. You know?
Oh, yeah. Well, you might be, but I doubt it. But just sorry, audience. Jen is like my physical guru. I think she'll always be climbing a mountain. She'll be 80 rock climbing a mountain or something.
I gotta climb this tree.
We're making this like from the ethereal, which I really think we're in, into just a concrete reality. This is why Jen and I love shadow casting and love archetype work and love looking at things like pop culture, for example. If you identify with Captain America, freaking great. And if you are a couch potato who's not even a weekend warrior, but a weekend gamer, you're not running 7 miles every day like Captain America did. You're not passing the Falcon on his left, But this is where the small choices come in. What's one small choice you could make today that would make Captain America proud? That would make you more like Captain America. That would embody the energy of Captain America, for example. Maybe it's on the weekend you go for an hour walk or a 2-hour walk or a 3-hour walk or whatever. What's one small thing you can do today to inch you forward to the energy that you want to align with? And that's where the power, I think, of the archetypes and these examples come in, is they cue us into what aligns with us. Because not everyone likes Captain America. Some people like Iron Man. But regardless if you like Captain America or Iron Man, both can be energies and archetypes of being physically healthy.
Yeah, yeah. And you have to lean in. I mean, okay, let's say you're the gamer who does like Captain America. So you embody that by wearing it as the skin, okay, in Fortnite. There you are, you're Captain America. But you make it more real life. Let's say you want by how you act to other people. Maybe you don't curse as much because you care about that character. Captain America, it's all about his character. That's how he became Captain America, was because he had a wonderful character and was kind and driven, and yeah, and then he ended up a superhero. So that's what you cultivate first. That's the choice you make first.
100%. And it's always a decision, and you will always decide. That's the other thing.
Mhm.
And I think I hit on this while we were podcasting, but just to reiterate, you don't just decide today I'm going to be like Captain America and every day from that's an easy decision. And hour later, you might struggle again. It's the constant commitment, the consistency, the small acts. And even if you falter, the next time the situation comes up, it's choosing quote unquote the right way that time.
Yeah.
And it's committing to it, not for anyone else, but for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be for you and from you. It's that value inside. Yeah. You're going to have to play with this one, audience. It's hard because decision they're not synonymous with making a choice. Decision's a quality of character that you've embodied. And so you want to lean into that one, at least when you're thinking play mindset. And the choices are the little actions that solidify that decision.
Yeah. Wasn't it you that you and I, yeah, it was you. We had talked about, and just another example since we had brought up Fortnite, like for every what it was, it like 1,000 meters you run on the map, like you like walk like 100 feet. So, or something, it's gamifying it, making it fun, making it play. I mean, play as the mindset is not just fun because it's an acronym. It's also the concept. Make it play, make it fun.
Yeah. Be curious. Play
Yeah.
with the possibilities. Turn your vision into reality. You don't have to give up gaming. Just make it useful.
Make your whole life a game if that's what works for you. I don't know, this came to me, but like if you're listening and you're a lawyer and you just eat, live, and breathe being a lawyer, make everything about being a lawyer. Like bring to light what works for you and what lights you up in all areas of your life. And that's how the play mindset will get you out of survival into fulfillment. The tools and qualities that we discussed are just those things that help you move more into that identity, that embodiment.
Exactly. I hope you guys have really enjoyed this series and what we've created, and hopefully you find some of these tools or all of these tools useful into living a more fulfilling life.
Yeah.
And we've really enjoyed sharing it with you and discussing it and having more ideas pop out about how to use it. It's been fabulous. So Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you, audience. We really appreciate all the energy and time that you guys have given listening to this podcast. And I have a challenge for our audience. For our last tool, tell us your favorite. Tell us which one you like the most and which one is the hardest for you. We'll give you 2 questions to answer this time because I think it's going to be different for every person depending on where you're at, depending on where your focus is. And I think what you'll see as you see the comments come in is that everyone's in different stages and different fulfillments and different survivals. And the idea is that, we're all working on this together and celebrating our humanity. So make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to, share us out with your friends and family, drop us the comments like we always ask for, drop us a like. And until next time.
See ya.